The envelope hit the kitchen table like a grenade, its crisp white edges slicing through the morning quiet of the old farmhouse. Ethan Harper's fingers trembled as he tore it open, the embossed gold lettering blurring through unshed tears. "You are cordially invited to the wedding of your cousin Rebecca to Jonathan Mills." He let it flutter to the floor, a mocking butterfly in the dust motes dancing in the sunlight. 27 years old, and this was the first family wedding invite he'd received since coming out at 16. Only it wasn't for him to attend. It was a polite exile, wrapped in floral stationery. Ethan slumped against the scarred oak counter, the one his grandfather had built with calloused hands that once ruffled his hair without a second thought. Now those same hands, shriveled by time and resentment, had penned the accompanying note. "Family only. We love you, but boundaries must be respected. Dad." The words burned like cheap whiskey, familiar in their sting. It had been 11 years since the blow-up at Thanksgiving, when Ethan's hesitant confession had turned the Harper clan dining room into a battlefield. Forks clattered, voices rose, and by dessert, he'd been metaphorically, and later literally, shown the door. "Not under my roof," his father had growled, face red as the cranberry sauce. Mom had cried but followed the script. Cousins whispered, aunts prayed, and just like that, Ethan was the black sheep, shorn and shivering in the Iowa winter. He'd built a life in Chicago since then, trading cornfields for concrete canyons, family barbecues for anonymous bar stools. A graphic designer by day, sketching logos for queer-owned startups. By night, swiping left on apps that promised connection but delivered ghosts. At 6 feet 1 inch with tousled chestnut hair and eyes the color of Lake Michigan on a stormy day, he turned heads, but his heart stayed locked, rusted shut by rejection. Therapy helped, sort of. "You're worthy of love," his counselor would say, but Ethan just nodded, sketching absent doodles of fractured family trees. That afternoon, as sleet pelted his apartment window overlooking the loop, Ethan did what he always did. He burned bridges in effigy. He fired off a group text to the cousins who'd ghosted him post coming out. "Congrats to Becca. Wish I could be there. Or that you'd fight for me." No replies as expected. He poured a bourbon neat, the burn grounding him, and scrolled through old photos. Thanksgivings with pie-smeared faces. 4th of July fireworks exploding over the Mississippi. The ache was a constant companion, a hollow in his chest that echoed with what-ifs. But fate, that capricious bastard, had other plans. 2 days later, Ethan found himself at a queer art gallery opening in Wicker Park, nursing a gin and tonic amid canvases splashed with defiant colors. He wasn't there for the art. A client had dragged him, promising networking. Instead, he bumped, literally, into Lucas Reyes, spilling half his drink down the man's crisp white shirt. "Shit, I'm so sorry," Ethan stammered, grabbing napkins from a nearby table, dabbing futilely at the spreading stain. Up close, Lucas was a revelation. Olive skin glowing under the gallery lights, dark curls framing a face that could launch 1,000 sonnets, and hazel eyes sparkling with amusement rather than anger. "No harm done," Lucas laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a breeze. "Consider it modern art. Gin spill number 47 foot. Very avant-garde." He was 29, a journalist for the Chicago Tribune, specializing in LGBTQ+ stories that peeled back the city's glittering facade to reveal its underbelly of bias and bravery. Born in East LA to Mexican immigrant parents who'd fled cartel violence, Lucas had clawed his way to the Midwest on scholarships and sheer grit, his accent a melodic blend of barrios and newsrooms. They talked for hours, the gallery emptying around them like a tide receding. Lucas shared tales of covering Pride riots in the 90s archives, his voice dropping low on the story of a trans activist gunned down in Boys Town. Ethan confessed his family fracture, the words tumbling out unbidden, raw as an open wound. "They act like I'm contagious," he said, staring into his empty glass. "Like loving who I love makes me less of a Harper." Lucas's hand found his across the sticky high-top table, warm and steady. "Families aren't blood. They're choices. And yours? They chose wrong." It was the first time in years someone had validated the hurt without pity. By midnight, they were walking the rain-slick streets, shoulders brushing, laughter cutting through the chill. At Ethan's door, Lucas leaned in, breath minty with possibility. "Dinner tomorrow? My treat, no spills required." Ethan nodded, heart hammering like a bass drum at a rally. As the door clicked shut, he slid down it, grinning like a fool. For the first time, the hollow felt a little less empty. Their first date was at a hole-in-the-wall taqueria in Pilsen. Murals of Aztec warriors watching over plates of al pastor tacos dripping with pineapple. Lucas devoured his with the enthusiasm of a man who'd grown up sharing meals from a single pot, while Ethan picked at his, nerves fraying the edges of his appetite. "Tell me something real," Lucas prompted, wiping salsa from his chin. "Not the polished version. What keeps you up at night?" Ethan hesitated, then spilled. The dreams where he stood at an altar, family pews empty save for cobwebs. The way his father's voice still echoed in board meetings, critiquing his lifestyle choices from afar via passive-aggressive emails. Lucas listened, chin propped on his fist, eyes never leaving Ethan's face. "My folks disowned me too," he admitted softly. "When I came out at 19, they said I was shaming the Virgin Mary. Packed my bags with a rosary and a curse." He shrugged, but the shadow in his gaze betrayed the scar. "Built my family from friends, though. Strangers who became brothers. You'll find yours." By the end of the month, they were inseparable, lazy Sundays binging old episodes of Queer as folk on Ethan's lumpy couch. Weekend hikes in the Indiana dunes where Lucas's laughter echoed off the dunes like freedom. Ethan sketched Lucas in stolen moments. Profile against the lake, wind-tousled hair, hands gesturing wildly during rants about conservative councilmen gutting queer funding. Lucas, in turn, wrote articles laced with Ethan's insights, footnotes to anonymous sources that felt like love letters in newsprint. But shadows lingered. Ethan's phone buzzed with updates from the wedding, cousin selfies in fittings, floral mock-ups from Pinterest. Save the date for the drama. Becca had texted once, pre-ghosting, but now silence. Lucas noticed the tension, the way Ethan's smiles faltered at mentions of home. "Invite me to Iowa," he said one night, tangled in sheets that smelled of sandalwood and sweat. "Show them what they're missing." Ethan laughed it off, but the seed took root. As spring thawed the Mississippi, he booked tickets home, not for the wedding but for a reckoning. Becca's big day was in June, but Ethan aimed for May, a preemptive strike. "Just a visit," he told Lucas. "Clear the air." Lucas packed a bag anyway, his grin defiant. Road trip, like Thelma and Louise, but with more flannel. The drive south was a blur of golden prairies and classic rock. Windows down. Lucas's playlist heavy on Springsteen anthems about broken hearts and open roads. They sang off-key to Thunder Road, hands intertwined over the gearshift, the world shrinking to the hum of tires on I-80. Ethan felt lighter than he had in years, the weight of exile lifting like fog at dawn. Davenport welcomed them with open arms, or at least the riverfront did. They checked into a kitschy motel with neon signs flickering vacancy, and wandered the banks where Ethan had skipped stones as a kid. "This is where I first knew," he confessed, skipping a flat pebble that danced 6 times before sinking. "Kissing Tommy Jenkins behind the boathouse. Age 12. Felt like the sun exploding in my chest." Lucas pulled him close, lips brushing his temple. "And now it's you," Ethan whispered, the words a vow. But vows, as Ethan would learn, were fragile things in the Harper household. Pulling into the gravel driveway of the Harper farmhouse felt like driving into a memory etched in acid. The 2-story Victorian loomed against a sky bruised with thunderheads, its wraparound porch sagging under the weight of potted geraniums and unspoken grudges. Ethan's knuckles whitened on the wheel of his rented Chevy, Lucas's hand a steady anchor on his thigh. "Breathe," Lucas murmured. "We've got this." The screen door banged open before the engine died, and there was Aunt Marlene, flour-dusted apron tied over her Sunday dress, eyes widening like saucers at the sight of them. "Ethan? Lord Almighty. Boy, you didn't say you were comin'." Her hug was bone-crushing, scented with yeast and vanilla, the kind that bridged years in a squeeze. Behind her, Uncle Ray hovered, mustache twitching in that familiar mix of wariness and warmth. "Good to see ya, son," he grunted, clapping Ethan's shoulder hard enough to rattle teeth. Introductions were a tightrope walk. "This is Lucas," Ethan said, voice steady despite the flutter in his gut. "My partner." The word hung in the air like smoke, Lucas's smile polite as he extended a hand. Marlene's gaze darted between them, then softened. "Well, come in, come in. Pie's fresh, apple your favorite." Ray nodded curtly, but his grip on Lucas's hand lingered a beat too long, appraising. Inside, the house was a time capsule. Faded wallpaper blooming with roses, the mantel cluttered with brass eagles and faded photos. Ethan's baby face beaming from a swing, absent from the recent frames. They settled in the kitchen, steam rising from coffee mugs like peace offerings. Marlene chattered about Becca's wedding. "Silk lilies? Can you imagine the cost?" While Ray fixed Lucas with questions about his work, probing like a cop at a traffic stop. "Journalist, huh? Writin' about folks like you too." Lucas fielded it with grace, turning the tables. "Actually, I'm covering rural queer stories, like how farms like this one could lead on sustainable pride, rainbow flags on windmills." Ray chuckled, thawing a degree. Ethan watched, marveling at Lucas's alchemy, turning suspicion to curiosity. Dinner was a fuller house. Cousins trickled in, the air thick with pot roast and pretense. Becca arrived last, her engagement ring catching the light like a distress signal. She was 25, blonde curls pinned back, eyes the same stormy blue as Ethan's. "Eth," she squealed, pulling him into a hug that smelled of Chanel and desperation. "You came, I thought. Not for the wedding." He cut in gently, holding her at arm's length. "For us, to talk." Her face crumpled, just a flicker, before the mask slipped back. Lucas charmed the table, regaling them with tales of Chicago's underground drag balls, drawing laughs even from dour Uncle Frank. But undercurrents swirled, whispers behind cupped hands, glances that lingered too long on their linked fingers. After plates cleared, Ethan steered Becca onto the porch, the swing creaking under their weight. Crickets chorused in the dark, fireflies winking like conspirators. "Why the invite?" he asked, voice low. "After all this time, pretending I'm not here?" She twisted her ring, silver glinting. "Dad made me. Said it was courtesy." "But Ethan, it's not just him. The church group's up in arms. What if the kids see? Grandma's prayers are novenas now." Tears welled, spilling over. "I miss you. But if I push, they cut me off too. Jonathan's family, their old money, expect traditions." "Traditions?" Ethan echoed bitterly. "Like banning your own blood?" He told her everything then, the gallery spill, the road trip, the way Lucas made him believe in forever. Becca listened, chin quivering. "He sounds perfect. Bring him to the wedding as a +1. Show them." Ethan's laugh was sharp. "You know, Dad, he'd sooner burn the pews." But the seed, damn that seed, germinated overnight. The next morning, as rain pattered the tin roof, Ethan cornered his father in the barn, amid hay bales and the metallic tang of tractor oil. Tom Harper was 58, broad as a silo, face weathered like old leather. "Heard you're shacking up?" he said without preamble, wiping grease from his hands. "That's sustainable pride nonsense. Sounds like commie talk." "It's love, Dad." Ethan shot back, heat rising. "Real as this farm. Why can't you see that?" Tom's eyes narrowed, jaw set. "Bible says man and man, abomination, raised you better. This city's poisoned you." The words landed like haymaker punches, each one echoing the Thanksgiving ghost. Ethan fired back, voice cracking. "You raised me to lie? To hide? That's the poison." He stormed out, chest heaving, Lucas waiting in the truck with quiet fury in his eyes. They cut the visit short, speeding north through sheets of rain, the radio crackling with static. Lucas drove, one hand on the wheel, the other tracing soothing circles on Ethan's knee. "He'll come around," he said, though doubt threaded his tone. "Or he won't. But you have me." Back in Chicago, the glow faded into routine, but deepened. Lucas moved in that fall, his books mingling with Ethan's sketches on the fire escape. They hosted game nights with Lucas's found family, a trans barista named Jax, a non-binary coder called Riley, laughter filling the gaps Ethan's kin had left. Yet the wedding loomed like a storm front. Becca's texts a mix of pleas and updates. "Fittings tomorrow. Wish you were here." November brought a betrayal sharper than any blade. Ethan came home early from a client pitch, arms laden with takeout from their favorite dim sum spot, only to find Lucas on the couch, laptop open, face ashen. "What the hell, F?" The screen glowed with an email chain, Ethan's words from the barn fight, twisted into an anonymous tip. Local journalist exploiting family drama for queer agenda piece. Sources confirm hypocrisy. Boy's own dad calls him poisoned. Ethan's stomach plummeted. "You wrote about us? About Dad?" Lucas surged to his feet, eyes blazing. "No, I pitched a general piece on rural divides, hypotheticals. But someone leaked it." "Your cousin?" Becca forwarded it to the Trib editor, thinking it'd expose you. It backfired. Editor killed the story, but the damage. He raked hands through his curls. "They think I used you." 4 clicks. Betrayal bloomed, hot and thorny. Ethan dropped the bags, food spilling like guts. "Hypotheticals? Based on my pain? You said you'd protect that." "I did," Lucas pleaded, stepping closer. "This is Davenport striking back. Punishing you through me. Call Becca. She'll confess." But Ethan was already grabbing keys, storming into the night, the door slamming like a guillotine. He drove aimlessly, ending up at the lakefront, waves crashing under sodium lights. Hours later, Lucas found him, blanket in hand, eyes red-rimmed. "I didn't betray you," he whispered, wrapping them both against the wind. "I love you too much for that." Ethan leaned into him, sobs racking his frame. "Then why does it hurt like you did?" "Because they want us broken," Lucas said fiercely. "Don't let them win." Forgiveness came slow, stitched with late-night talks and shared silences. But the scar puckered, a reminder that love, like family, could wound deepest. As winter gripped the city in ice, Becca's wedding approached. Ethan stared at the invite on his phone, the RSVP no button mocking him. Lucas, ever the optimist, slid a mug of cocoa his way. "Crash it. With me. Turn their exclusion into our entrance." Ethan's pulse quickened. "You serious? Dad would disown me twice over." Lucas grinned, wolfish. "Let him. We'll make our own family. Starting with vows under those cherry blossoms you sketched." The idea ignited something reckless, romantic, a middle finger wrapped in lace. Ethan texted Becca, "Won't RSVP, but we'll be there. Surprise guests." Her reply, a string of shocked emojis. Then, "Dad's gonna blow a gasket. Be gentle." June dawned humid, the Mississippi swelling with spring melt. Ethan and Lucas flew into Quad Cities, rented a convertible, top down despite the heat. They drove with the radio blasting Motown soul, Lucas's hand in his hair, wind whipping promises. The church was a white-steepled sentinel in a sea of green, parking lot crammed with F-150s and sedans bedecked in tin cans. They arrived fashionably late, suits tailored sharp, Ethan in midnight blue, Lucas in emerald that set off his eyes. Hand in hand, they slipped into the vestibule, the organ swelling with Ave Maria. Whispers rippled as they took a back pew. Marlene's gasp audible too rose up. Becca, radiant in ivory at the altar, caught sight of them mid-vows, her smile fracturing into joy. But Tom Harper, stone-faced in the front row, turned slowly, face thunderous. The service dragged, every hymn a dirge, until the recessional. As the bridal party beamed down the aisle, Ethan stood, pulling Lucas with him. "Now or never," he murmured. They followed, uninvited, into the sunlight, family clustering like a flock of startled pigeons. Ethan, Tom started, voice a growl. Dad? Ethan interrupted, throat tight. We're not here to ruin. We're here to celebrate. Love in all its forms. He glanced at Lucas, drawing strength. And to ask you to see us. The air crackled, relatives frozen. Becca broke first, hugging them fierce. Thank God, she whispered. Marlene sniffled, dabbing eyes. But Tom stood rigid, fists clenched. Then a crack, his voice gruff. Get out. Both of ya. The rejection echoed like a gunshot in the churchyard, scattering the wedding party into awkward clusters. Ethan felt it viscerally, a fresh fracture along old fault lines, his father's words carving deeper than any knife. Lucas's grip tightened on his hand, a lifeline in the chaos, but even that couldn't staunch the bleed. Ethan, wait, Becca called, veil fluttering like a white flag. But he was already turning, legs carrying him toward the convertible, gravel crunching underfoot like brittle bones. They didn't speak on the drive back to the motel. The radio silenced, only the whoosh of semis on the highway filling the void. Lucas stared out at the blurring fields, jaw set, while Ethan white-knuckled the wheel, tears blurring the taillights ahead. By the time they collapsed onto the sagging motel bed, the dam broke. I thought, maybe... Ethan choked, face buried in the pillow that smelled of bleach and regret. One day, Lucas pulled him close, arms a fortress. You tried. That's braver than their cowardice. They made love then, slow and desperate, bodies mapping apologies neither voiced. Moonlight slanted through thin curtains, gilding sweat-slick skin, but dawn brought no absolution. Only a text from Becca. Dad sorry? Kinda. Come to the reception. Please. The country club was a bastion of Americana. White tablecloths starched crisp, centerpieces of corn-husk dolls nodding in AC breeze. A band crooning Garth Brooks under twinkling lights. Ethan and Lucas entered like commandos, chins up, scanning for hostiles. Marlene waved them over, her table a neutral zone amid the fray. Sit, sit, before Frank starts on his moonshine sermon. Small talk flowed like spiked punch. Wedding toasts, baby cousins' antics. But tension hummed beneath, eyes flicking to the head table where Tom nursed a scotch, gaze averted. Becca danced with Jonathan, her laughter forced, shooting pleading glances Ethan's way. Halfway through the chicken cordon bleu, Lucas leaned in. Go talk to him. I'll cover. Ethan nodded, heart pounding, and wove through swaying couples to the bar. Tom stood there, broad back to the room, fingers drumming the oak counter. Dad. A beat. Then, thought I told you to leave. But no venom, just weariness. Like a man hauling a plow through mud. I love him, Ethan said simply, sliding onto the stool beside him. Like you loved Mom. Doesn't make it wrong. Tom's laugh was hollow, bourbon-slurred. Bible don't lie, son. Your choices? They grieve the Lord. He turned then, eyes bloodshot, the lines around them etched deeper. And me. The confession hung, raw as flayed hide. Ethan swallowed the lump in his throat. Grieve? Or fear? That I'll be happy without your rules. He reached for the words Dr. Ellis had drilled into him. Hurt people hurt, but I forgive you. For me. Tom recoiled as if slapped, glass clinking hard on the bar. Forgive? You waltzin' here, flauntin'. Love, Ethan corrected, voice steady. Not flaunting, living. He stood, laying a hand on Tom's arm, the first touch in years. It trembled under his palm, then stilled. Come to ours, when we're ready. Tom jerked away, but not before Ethan saw the crack. A flicker of longing, buried under dogma. Ain't no wedding for that. Ethan walked away then, chest hollow but lighter, rejoining Lucas mid-slow dance to Amazed. They swayed, foreheads touching, the world narrowing to bass notes and breath. How'd it go? Lucas murmured. Like pulling teeth. But his. Ethan smiled faintly. He felt it. The night blurred into toasts and cake-cutting, relatives thawing by degrees. Cousin Mikey slipping them extra champagne. Aunt Marlene pressing foil-wrapped slices into their hands. But as fireworks popped over the golf course, Becca pulled Ethan aside, face pale under the glow. He's spiraling, yelling at Jonathan about family values. I think it's about you. Guilt twisted like barbed wire. I'll fix it. He found Tom on the veranda, cigarette glowing like a lone firefly, overlooking the ninth hole. Son, Tom rumbled, unprompted. Your ma. She wanted you here. Prayed for it. A drag, exhale ragged. Me? I failed her. Failed you. This sin. It eats at me. It's not sin, Ethan said softly. It's me. And Lucas, he's good, Dad. Writes truth. Fights for folks like us. Gave up a story to protect me. Tom's eyes sharpened. The leak? That was Becca, Ethan finished. Scared you'd lose me forever. Silence stretched, broken only by distant cheers. Then, Tom's voice cracked. I already have. He stubbed the smoke, shoulders slumping. Go on. Live your life, but don't ask me to watch. It wasn't absolution, but it was a door ajar. Enough for Ethan to step through, back to Lucas's arms, where healing waited. Back in Chicago, summer simmered into proposal fever. Lucas did it on a dune at sunset, knees sunk in sand. Ring a simple silver band etched with Thunder Road lyrics. Marry me? He asked, voice husky. Build that family, farm and all. Ethan's yes was a sob, sealed with salt-laced kisses. Planning commenced in a whirlwind. Venue a lakeside pavilion in Evanston. Guests a mosaic of Chicago queers and tentative Iowans. Invites went out rainbow-edged. Becca RSVPing yes with a heart emoji. Tom? Radio silence, but Marlene confirmed. He's thinking on it. Fall brought fittings, Lucas fidgeting in tweed like a kid in church. What if he doesn't show? Ethan fretted one night, steam fogging the bathroom mirror. Then we dance anyway, Lucas said, toweling his hair. Our day, our rules. But rules bent when betrayal reared again, this time from within. A week before the ceremony, Ethan's phone lit with a Tribune alert. Local journalist faces ethics probe over family ties. The byline wasn't Lucas's, but the quotes were damning. Anonymous sources claiming he'd fabricated rural queer struggles, drawing from personal exploitation. Becca's name wasn't there, but her fingerprints were. Forwarded emails, twisted into ammunition by a rival reporter sniffing for scandal. Lucas stormed in, face ashen, printout crumpled in fist. It's her. Again. Jonathan's connected. Lawyer buddy tipped her off. Said it'd protect the family image from our wedding stealing Becca's thunder. Ethan's world tilted. She knew. About us. Worse, she timed it. Lucas paced, fury etching lines. To tank my job. Our day. Rage boiled, hot and righteous. Ethan drove south that night, unannounced, pounding on Becca's door in the suburbs. Rain sheeting down. She answered in robe, eyes wide. You sold us out, he snarled, thrusting the article. For what? Dad's approval? A perfect photo op. She deflated, hugging herself. It wasn't like that. Jonathan, he heard rumors, said if we didn't distance, his folks would bail on the merger. Business, and Dad. He called me weak for inviting you. Tears streamed. I just wanted peace. Peace. Ethan laughed, bitter. You bought it with our blood. He turned to go, but she grabbed his arm. Wait, the wedding, I'm coming. To make it right. He shook her off, driving back through downpour, arriving soaked and shaking. Lucas enveloped him, no questions. Family's choices, remember? He whispered. Hers, not ours. The probe fizzled. Editor cleared Lucas, calling it sour grapes journalism. But the scar widened. As leaves turned crimson, Ethan wrestled doubt. Invite her? Risk more fracture? Lucas voted mercy. Let her see what she almost broke. Vows loomed, a beacon in the gathering dark. The pavilion at Sunset Beach shimmered under October's amber light, Lake Michigan lapping a rhythmic benediction against the shore. White tents billowed like sails, strung with Edison bulbs that twinkled against the dusk. tables laden with farm-to-table feasts. Iowa sweet corn bisque, Chicago deep dish sliders, Mexican street tacos in homage to Lucas's roots. Guests milled, Jax in a velvet jumpsuit, Riley with a flower crown askew, laughter weaving through oud and violin, a queer klezmer band striking up Hava Nagila with a techno twist. It was a tapestry of chosen kin, vibrant and unapologetic, the air scented with sage smudge and sea salt. Ethan stood at the water's edge, suit unbuttoned at the collar, waves kissing his loafers. Nerves jittered like fireflies in his veins. This wasn't just vows. It was defiance, a declaration etched in sand and starlight. Lucas approached from behind, arms circling his waist, chin on shoulder. "You ready to shock the world, Harper Reyes?" Ethan turned, cupping Lucas's face, thumbs tracing jawline. "Shocked enough that you're mine." Their kiss was soft, sealing the moment, before Jax herded them to the archway. A willow weave draped in rainbow ribbons, petals carpeting the aisle. The ceremony began as the sun dipped, painting the sky in strokes of rose and gold. Officiant Riley, voice warm as hearthfire, invoked ancestors. "We gather not just for two souls, but for all who've loved fiercely against the tide." Vows spilled like poetry. Ethan's penned in his sketchbook, voice cracking on, "You saw my fractures and built bridges, not walls." Lucas's a journalist's dispatch, eloquent and earnest. "In your eyes, I found my North Star, guiding me home, no matter the storm." Rings exchanged, simple bands catching the light, and then the hush. From the shadows of the tent, figures emerged. Marlene first, beaming through tears, arm linked with Ray's. Behind, Becca, Jonathan in tow, her dress simple silk, eyes red but resolute. And then, Tom Harper, Stetson in hand, flannel shirt tucked awkwardly into khakis, face a map of surrender. Gasps rippled, but Ethan froze, breath caught. Tom shuffled forward, clearing throat like gravel in a tumbler. "Ain't much for speeches," he rumbled, voice carrying over the waves. Guests parted, a sea before Moses. He stopped at the arch, eyes locking on Ethan's. Blue on blue, father to son. Came to witness. Pause, heavy as harvest. "Your ma would have loved this, proud as punch." He glanced at Lucas, appraising anew. "You take care of him, here? He's all I got left that's good." Lucas nodded, solemn. "With everything, sir." Tom's gaze softened, just a fraction. "Call me Tom." Then to Ethan, "Son, I'm learnin', slow, but here." He extended a hand, rough and trembling. Not for a shake, but a pull into embrace. Ethan went, collapsing into the hug, Tom's flannel damp with his tears, the scent of aftershave and earth grounding him like home soil. The crowd erupted, cheers, whistles, Jax whooping loudest. As Riley pronounced them bound. "You may kiss your husband." Ethan and Lucas did, world tilting to thunderous applause. Tom's nod from the sidelines, a quiet thunder of its own. The reception swirled into magic. Toasts from Riley, to loves that rewrite the script. Dances under stars, Ethan twirling Becca first. Her apologies whispered in waltz time. "I was scared, but seeing you, I'm done hiding." Tom even took a turn with Marlene, gruff footwork earning laughs, before accepting a beer from Lucas. Their conversation low and halting over the fire pit. Baseball scores bleeding into tentative questions about that city life. As embers died, guests thinning, Ethan found his father on a bench, staring at the dark water. "Why now?" he asked, settling beside. Tom sighed, long and low. "That probe?" Becca confessed. "Broke my heart worse than any sin. Saw myself in her, stubborn, blind." "Your ma," she said before she passed. "Tom, love ain't a choice. It's a gift. Don't squander yours." He patted Ethan's knee, awkward but real. "Won't say I get it all, but I'll try. For holidays. Grandkids, maybe one day." Ethan's throat closed. "That's enough." They drove Tom back to the airport at dawn. Hugs exchanged in the terminal haze. Marlene's tearful, Becca's fierce. Tom's a backslap that lingered. Proud, he muttered, almost inaudible, before turning to security. Back home, life wove new threads. Lucas's column on reclaimed roots went viral, drawing letters from rural queers echoing Ethan's arc. Ethan designed logos for a Midwest Pride network, cornstalks entwined with rainbows. Thanksgivings shifted, first hybrid, video calls bridging miles, then full. The farmhouse table groaning under turkey and tamales. Tom's prayers amended to, "Bless this mismatched bunch." Betrayals faded to footnotes, conflicts to conversations. Becca visited Chicago, Jonathan thawing over Cubs games. The hollow in Ethan's chest filled, not with perfection, but presence. Love's quiet revolution. Years on, at their 5th anniversary picnic by the dunes, Ethan sketched their family tree anew. Branches sprawling with Jax's kids, Riley's partner, even a spot held for future Harper's Reyes. Lucas leaned over, kissing his temple. "Shocked 'em all, didn't we?" Ethan grinned, closing the pad. "And kept shocking. That's the American way." In the end, it wasn't happily ever after, no tidy bows on fractured bonds. But it was human. Messy, mended, miraculous. A gay love story etched in the heartland, proving that even banned, you could still dance at the wedding, your own, and maybe one day there's